All right, let's go back to the future. Let's go back to 1985, July 13th, summer of 85. If you know my channel, I focus mostly on 70s and 80s. Before cable TV kind of became ubiquitous, so we're still in the era of the big three. Fox channel didn't even exist yet. Let's get right into this one. Heather Thomas. How great is this cover? Sorry for the smudges. If you were a young boy in the 80s, you remember the opening of The Fall Guy. Heather Thomas coming through the doors with a bikini on. Enough said. Here's a great Hawaiian Punch ad. I loved Hawaiian Punch when I was a kid. It's probably the only non-soda thing I drank. Never drank water. Only soda, Hawaiian Punch. Alright, so this is 1985 in the summer. I talked in one of my other videos about summer replacement shows. We'll see if we see any in here. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. First one of those ads we've seen. Check out this football article. Is Joe Montana or Jim Kelly the best quarterback in pro football? Well, we know Montana is the GOAT, so we know Jim Kelly's not even in the conversation. Jim Kelly was great with the Bills, I believe. Oh, look, they're actually got some people trying to rank them or something. I'm going to linger on this for just a second. Sorry if you're not a football fan. We'll get into a lot of good stuff here. So they got Dan Fouts. I'm just looking at these little categories they came up with. Doug Williams has got the best arm. Montana's better at scrambling. I don't know. Marino was pretty good at scrambling. And he's not even in this list. Runners? Steve Young, yeah. He was a great runner. Heart, that's funny. Jim Plunkett's up there in the heart category. I think the same 5 or 6 or 7 guys in each of these lists. They got Flutie on there. Flutie was a sensation. What kind of phone is that? Looks freaky. Why is it open like that? Letterman. Got a whole article about Letterman. He was still on late night at that time after Carson. All right, we got Heather Thomas. We got Heather Locklear. Now we're in the mid-80s. There's Alyssa Milano as a little kid. There's Mr. Belvedere. Who remembers him? If you don't, where were you in the 80s? Did you have your head in the sand? This might be some soap opera stuff here because I don't remember. I don't recognize them. Look at this pose on this guy. What's he doing right now? Don't know who she is, but I'm intrigued. Bird. Is that Robert Urich with Larry Bird? Sure is. That's pretty hilarious. Saw this in one of the other ones. This is kind of fun thing that I don't remember this at all from the TV guides. They would have like a video VHS recommendations type thing. Looks like they even have a top 10 or something. So we'll probably know all of these. Karate Kid at number 1, Terminator, The Cotton Club, that was Richard Gere, Dune, the most boring snooze fest, formaldehyde, put you to sleep movie ever made, Missing in Action. I think that was Chuck Norris. City Heat. If you haven't seen City Heat and you're either a Burt Reynolds or Clint Eastwood fan, you gotta see it. Teachers, that rings a bell. Body Double, Revenge of the Nerds. Bachelor Party was like the most disappointing movie. got Elton John. Maybe he's got a concert video out or something. And number 2. Get your whole house clean for $80. Now they won't even wipe down a countertop for $80. Grapevine. I remember they used to have Cheers and Jeers, and I haven't seen one of those lately. All right. So again, this is summer of '85. I think we got some golf and stuff on. Take a quick look at this sports calendar. I usually skip past this. Bowling, baseball, lots of baseball, which makes sense. Tennis, USFL. I must have ran for a couple years, that league. British Open. Anybody remember the movie Nighthawks with Stallone? Come on, Stallone in a dress. Another one of these ads. So they would run down the pay TV movies, which most of us didn't have, so we wouldn't even read this. But if you did have cable, this is a great way to see kind of all the movies that were coming on that you might want to catch. So let's scan these. Camel Boy. Never remember that one. Electric Dreams. That sort of rings a bell. I know I'm skipping over some of these. Conan the Destroyer. Not as good as the first one, but still, you know, you got Conan doing barbarian stuff. DC Cab. Who remembers that? Mr. T. If you were a Mr. T fan, you don't remember DC Cab. I'm not sure you were a Mr. T fan. Alright, I won't go through all these. Last Starfighter. Risky Business. Rebecca De Mornay. I'll say no more about that. If you don't know, you don't know. So this is another Indiana one. I've gone through several of these, and I guess I got a bunch from Indiana. So this particular guide served the Indiana region, including some Ohio, maybe? I don't know. Saturday morning. Let's see what was on. There we go. We haven't seen that one in any of my other videos yet. Snorks. I love Snorks. That was the first one on in the morning. Kind of a weird show, kind of a Smurfs ripoff. Think of Smurfs underwater, and you basically got Snorks. But for whatever reason, I loved it. Super Friends would have been a repeat at that point in '85, but still great. Pink Panther and Sons. It's an interesting cartoon. Muppet Babies was huge. I would kind of put that on because at this time there wasn't much else on that I'd want to watch. Sometimes I watch Smurfs, sometimes I watch Muppet Babies. Love Dungeons and Dragons. I would definitely be watching that. I might be watching Rubik's in the Amazing Cube. I didn't realize it was still on in '85. Who remembers the Woodwright's Shop? Great PBS show. That guy did it the real way. Alvin and the Chipmunks was one of my favorites for whatever reason. Maybe because Alvin was kind of a rebellious little dude. And then finishing off with Kid Video. If you didn't watch Kid Video, where were you? Live Aid coming on MTV. Okay, this is cool. So they got an MTV ad in here. Live Aid was huge, as you can see the rundown. Phil Collins, Hole in the Notes, Mick Jagger, okay. Huey Lewis, Paul McCartney was kind of over by the '80s. Although, yeah, maybe, no, I shouldn't say that because he had some good jams in the early '80s. Mr. T cartoon, I never watched that, but I definitely watched The Littles. So I know I'm saying a lot of these were my favorite, but my favorites were probably The Littles and Inspector Gadget. If you don't remember the Littles theme, go look it up. Hopefully it's on YouTube. Some of that stuff's copyright, but that was a great theme. I love the Littles theme. Amazing Spider-Man. It's a great one. Look at that. Spider-Man followed by the Hulk. Cartoons. Awesome. I like the Hulk cartoon a little bit better than Spider-Man. Let's see who's on American Bandstand. See how much great stuff was on back then? You could just sit in front of the boob tube all day. Laura Branigan. Video of You to a Kill. So that's cool. You get to see some videos and some live or lip sync. There's that Live Aid concert coming on. I wonder if this was the weekend that it premiered, or if this was just like MTV replaying it. Yeah, this might have been it. So that's kind of a piece of rock and roll history right there. 17-hour MTV. I guess they ran it for 17 hours straight. That's pretty awesome and epic. I did not have cable at this time, so I was out of the loop on these things except for kind of hearing about them in the zeitgeist. Dukes of Hazzard coming on. Pole Position cartoon. That kind of rings a bell. They would make, as you saw with Rubik's Cube, they would make cartoons out of video games and all kinds of stuff in the 80s. Because there was just so much great stuff. I just saw something about miniature golf. Oh well. Alright, Saturday evening in the summer. Could be some reruns, could be some summer replacement shows. Who knows what's on, but let's take a look. Different Strokes. Seems like that would have been off the air by 85. Give Me a Break, Mama's Family and Hunter. That's a fun lineup. Airwolf. That's another great theme. The opening theme for that. Austin City Limits. I may look at some of the cable stuff. I may not. Probably look at some of the cable stuff one or two nights in this one. Yeah, they got a whole ad here for the Live Aid thing. And I'm sure if we run through some of these names, if you don't know about Live Aid, it was like they were trying to raise money for something or other, and they had it in different cities. So I think they had some from London, some from. So you can see here. Yeah, here we go. Wembley Stadium, London, JFK, and Philly. Okay, so I guess they just had two sites, one in America and one in the UK. So it has here the lineup. So in Philly, you could see Bryan Adams, you could see Black Sabbath, Eric Clapton. I mean, just so much good music. The Hooters, Patti LaBelle, Kenny Loggins. I mean, it would take me forever to read all these. Tears for Fears, Rick Springfield. I love Rick Springfield. All right, Solid Gold salutes the songs of summer. That's pretty fun. Doesn't really show which people other than the Beach Boys and Elton John. I can't think of an Elton John song that would be the songs of summer, but definitely the Beach Boys. Okay, looks like they were showing some Live Aid on regular TV too, so that's pretty cool. So MTV probably had the full concert. Looks like ABC was showing some highlights, and I mean, look at these names. Look at these names. Bob Dylan, The Who. That's why we go through these guides, folks. This is a piece of cultural history, if you will. Look at Airwolf. These ads are so fun. What is this? The Steve Allen start of something big? I don't know. Donna Mills is there. I'm probably going to tune in. Let's see what's going on Airwolf. Hawk. The guy's name was Hawk. I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that. You're already flying a cool helicopter, and your name is Hawk. And that's Jan Michael Vincent's Captured by Latin America Revolutionaries. Co-starring. I don't recognize any of the co-stars. Sometimes they have some cool cameo co-stars on these shows. Second Hearts, starring that dude. you know about him, you know about him. Beretta. What is this? I'm trying to give away some stuff. Back then, the contests they would actually give away prizes. Now you play for a chance to win a prize, which means they never give any prizes away, actually. So this will be late Saturday night. Oh, I did want to take a quick look at Austin City Limits. Sorry, I don't know if it'll be in here or not. Just want to take a quick glance. Bear with me. Okay, I don't see it. Oh, here it is. Loretta Lynn. Patsy Cline. Oh, tribute to Patsy Cline. Okay. All right, back to late Saturday night. Saturday Night Live coming on at 10:30 in Indiana. Be early Sunday morning. Robotech, there we go. Now, where I lived, either Robotech didn't come on or it just came on when I didn't know about it. But if you don't know about Japanese anime, this is when it started to arrive in America. So America, we didn't know about anime. And Voltron and Robotech were some of the first ones. I loved Voltron. Hopefully we'll see that in one of these TV guides. But it looks like early Sunday morning in Indiana, you could catch Robotech and have your mind blown. The thing about the anime, it was just different. You could argue it was better, but it was certainly something totally different than what we were used to seeing in cartoons. So, as I mentioned, I never saw Robotech, but there you go. Indiana had it. And I'm just scanning to see if we see a Voltron. We do! There we go. Now, that was my junk. In my memory, it came on in the mornings on weekdays where I was living. In some places in America, you might never see Voltron. At this time, you might see it in a couple years or something. But yeah, I love Voltron. Giant robots. Who could not like that if you were a young boy? But the anime probably appealed more to boys than girls. Ernest Angley, Sports Sunday, the USFL Championship. Okay, so middle of July would be the championship. I think Doug Flutie got his start there. I could be wrong on that. Saturday night we got Knight Rider. We got Murder, She Wrote. There we go. Crazy Like a Fox. That rings a bell. Maybe we'll see an ad for it to help jog our memories. All right, this is Sunday night. This was a big show back in the 80s when we were celebrating yuppies and excess and all that. Check this out. HBO, Dolly and Kenny. How great is that? That would have been great to see, but most of us didn't have HBO. If you did have it, you're lucky. Again, I sometimes look for the guest stars on these shows, just seeing anybody else popping up on Knight Rider. Jerry Orbach's popping up on Murder, She Wrote. He was in the Law and Order shows. Yeah, there's Stingray. Is that what I was referring to earlier? This definitely rings a bell. Maybe he was another helicopter dude or something. There were definitely some rip-off shows. Do remember that. That's the 2-hour movie premiere. Wonder if this is one of those summer replacement shows I mentioned. My knowledge isn't complete on all this stuff, but I'm giving you stuff to look up here. Find more info on. Africa, Continent in Crisis, a World Television Report. LeVar Burton, Debbie Allen. I guess that's Marianne Mobley. And our Mr. Serious Guy. All right, so this is Sunday night. We've kind of already looked at this, but we'll see if anything pops out. Trapper John, I guess that was still on in 85. If you remember that movie, I'm sorry, that show. Alright. Let's see what's coming on during the week in the mornings in Indiana or in 1985. Cowboy Bob's Corral. I pointed that out before. I'm kind of curious about that because it has a colorful name there. Yeah, here we go. Voltron. That's what I would have been catching it. Probably in the mornings before school. Maybe catching 15 minutes of it or something. Just enough to know in your brain that that was super cool. Probably didn't fully understand what was going on. There's a whole story behind the Voltron cartoon that I really don't have time to tell, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, and then some of the favorites that we all know and love, like Tom and Jerry, Woody Woodpecker, Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow. What a great show. Man, I think maybe now Reading Rainbow is a little unappreciated. Of course, we appreciate Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. Reading Rainbow is really, really good. And what a great theme song. So if you lived in Indiana, do you recognize any of these news people? Do you recognize Cameron Harper? Weekday stuff in the middle of the day, you know, it's soaps, it's reruns of like I Love Lucy, Get Smart, what a great show, Honeymooners. But sometimes I don't linger too long on the weekdays, in the middle of the day stuff. Monday night in the middle of summertime, 1985, Comedy Salute to Baseball, that sounds pretty weird. Poison Ivy, I don't think that would be the one with Drew Barrymore on regular TV, but maybe it was. Hardcastle and McCormick, Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Let's see what's on cable. Again, cable stuff's kind of foreign to me at this time. Fraggle Rock, yeah, you had to have HBO to see that, unless you were in Michigan, I guess. Chattanooga Choo Choo. BET's got a Bill Cosby coming on. Video Soul, how great is that, in 1985. MTV wouldn't even show a lot of black videos. David Bowie gave him a hard time about that. Just seeing what other movies. Gandhi. Not much of this particular night. DC Cab. Al Jarreau. Wonder if that was like a concert. That would have been good in the 80s. How about this gal? If you're in Indiana, do you recognize her? Kind of hard to read that name there. Klepik. Happy Days. Fonz visits the Twilight Zone. Have you seen that episode? I haven't. Private Benjamin. I believe this was based on the movie. I think they made like a half-hour sitcom about it. So I believe this would have been based on the movie starring Goldie Hawn, right? How do I know these names in my brain? Oh, this looks fun. So we saw that in the listing, but again, that's why these ads give you so much more context. So it's Billy Crystal. He would have been at the top of his game in 85. Bob Uecker would have been fun. Betty White. And then some jocks. Oh, Guido Sarducci. He was from Saturday Night Live. Steven Spielberg on Entertainment Tonight. Get some tchotchkes. Miss Universe. Girl looks familiar. Wonder if she became like a movie star or something. Don't see any names here except for the hosts. Of course, Bob Barker would be there. How about Carrie Dean and Terre Haute? Who got their news from him in the 80s? Yeah, see, this is Poison Ivy, some made-for-TV movie with Michael J. Fox and Robert Klein. So who knew that Michael J. Fox was in a movie called Poison Ivy? it wasn't for me doing these videos, you would never have known that. Yeah, this is the Nighthawks movie that I was mentioning. Stallone, Billy D. Williams, Rutger Hauer, Lindsay Wagner. Everybody, all the boys loved her. Alright, so this will be Monday evening. We kind of already saw the primetime lineup. Late Night with Letterman with Pierce Brosnan coming on. Again, if you're around the 80s, you know these names. If you're not, you're like, who the heck is Pierce Brosnan? Got to revisit it one more time. 7 a.m. Voltron. I don't see Inspector Gadget. That would have been my other go-to. Just scanning the daytime stuff to see Evening at the Pops, John Denver, John Williams. That would have been good in '85. Catching it at noon on a random Tuesday. Listening to some great music where all the slubs are at work. Baseball All-Star pregame. Okay, so the All-Star game's coming on maybe ABC. Splendor in the Grass is coming on. Foul Ups, Bleeps, and Blunders. Magruder and Loud. That kind of rings a bell as well. I wonder if that was one of those summer replacements. All right. E.T. exposes The Exorcist. Exorcist was in 1972, so this is a long time after that to be revisiting it. Here's the All-Star Game ad. How great is that? Fellas releasing blunders. John Ritter introduces outtakes from Three's Company. Goofs from commercials. If you had ESPN, you could watch some pro karate. In 1985, they probably said, hey, the Karate Kid's big, let's show some karate. If you don't know about ESPN, when they launched, it was kind of a crazy idea to try to show sports 24 hours a day. So they were reaching for some content back then. They were showing all kinds of weird, strange sports, anything they could get their hands on and get some licensing deals with to televise it. Probably nothing like the ESPN that we think of in our mind that's kind of taken over sports. All right, Wednesday. If you're into fishing, you can watch Rod and Reel. Probably just see two guys on a boat reeling in some bass and then throwing them back or whatever. Looks like Wednesday's pretty strong for ABC, I believe. Highway to Heaven, Facts of Life, St. Elsewhere. That's pretty strong. Looks like some of the other channels aren't even trying to compete. They're just showing random movies and stuff. But again, in summertime, that's often what they would do. Voltron at 4 p.m., man. You could probably sit down and watch the whole episode. Heathcliff was another one of my afternoon cartoons. I didn't watch a lot. I would usually watch one or two because, you'd go outside and play, especially if it was summertime. Wintertime was the time when you get home. It'd be rainy, it'd be cold. You'd sit down, you'd watch some Heathcliff. Who got their weather from these guys in the 80s in Indiana? Show of hands in the audience. It's funny, it seems like they have an Entertainment Tonight ad on every day of the week. Barbara Walters special, check it out. Some big names here. Sally Field, what a sweetheart. Who doesn't love her? Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane, and Esther Williams. Don't know what she was in. I definitely heard that name before. Wednesday's Child. Okay. Here we go. Some random pilot. This might have been one of those summer replacement shows. Two college chums have no complaints until they're reunited after graduation. Note. Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell. I don't recognize either his names or I would have called them out. Sometimes there would be a known star on some of these summer replacement shows that didn't take off in that show, but then became a star on some other show or something. Wow, a full page ad for eye care. I'm guessing this would have to be, I don't know what it is, something in Indiana maybe, or maybe it's some national chain or something. All right, where are we at here? Wednesday, late at night. Okay, so we're getting into Thursday morning. Let's see what's on Thursday evening in the middle of the summer. If you know, you know. NBC, Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, Hill Street Blues. I mean, cancel Christmas. How could you compete with that? Looks like CBS was doing their best. Magnum, Simon & Simon, Knots Landing. Maybe some shows that appealed to a different demographic, so they were being as smart as they could about it. But yeah, it's hard to compete with that lineup. I mean, I don't even need to tell you what those shows are. You've all heard of all those. All right. There's Heathcliff again. Again, these would be different markets. Voltron. Glad we finally saw some Voltron. There are a couple other cartoons from the 80s that I haven't seen yet, and I'm not going to call them out because hopefully we'll run across them in one of these TV guides. Barbara Mandrell, she was awesome. Roach Spray. So if you're tuning into Family Ties, you were seeing a conclusion of maybe a two-parter. Stephen, the plumber, and Skippy brave a blizzard to reach the hospital, but Elise remains at the station in the final stages of labor. Uh-oh, a little bit of a mix-up there. Some more yokel TV guys. That's a thing I don't remember from the TV guides that apparently was a thing. So if you like your yokel anchors, watch my channel. You'll see them from West Virginia. You'll see them from Michigan. And these guys are from Indiana. Late Night with Letterman's got Gilda Radner and Jay Leno before he was hosting the Carson show. All right, Friday in '85. Some movie called Saturn III. But we got Dukes of Hazzard. We got Benson. We got Webster. We got Matt Houston. That's good enough. Between Dukes and Matt Houston. Oh, of course we got Miami Vice. Okay. Haven't seen any full page ads for Miami Vice yet, so hopefully we'll run across some of those because those will be fun. Yeah, we didn't spot too many. I think we spotted a couple of those summer replacement shows. They probably just didn't ring a bell because they never caught on. Let's see who's going to be on Matt Houston or Miami Vice. Nobody particular. Yeah, now Miami Vice was famous. Even if you haven't seen it or had seen it, you may not remember. They were always bringing on like pop stars and guest stars. So Esai Morales, he became a big star after probably one of his early appearances was probably Miami Vice. I don't recognize those others. Matt Houston was a fun show. Lee Horsley, lots of charisma. Don't make them like that anymore. Now our stars have negative charisma. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Here's the Winston guy looking super cool. Uh-oh. Here's Heather Locklear, folks. They got her a little bit covered up here, but that's her. And of course, Fall Guy, Lee Majors, fun show for the young kids. And the kids at heart that are older. That's pretty campy. Pepto tablets, might have been a new technology back then. Used to have to drink it. Your push button pay-per-view movies should be here shortly. Uh-oh, pay-per-view. Just another way to get money. Another cigarette ad, Benson and Hedges. Sometimes some goofy articles in the back here. Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell. Looks like a great lineup. Oh, it's like an interview with them or something. All right, ad on the back. Carlton Cigarettes. This was a good one. Thanks for joining me. See you in the future.